We've heard several mentions of the need for balance, between sustainability and those green objectives in strategic thinking and profitability. How do you see that, and how do you see sort of recent developments at the IMO, for example, with the pause affecting that whole strategic discussion and how you get the balance right?
Thank you, Clive, for this one. Well, frankly speaking, to be honest, I think we are at a pivotal point at this stage where sustainability and profitability are, as I said in my speech, are no longer opposing forces. In fact, they are two faces of the same coin. Today, of course, maybe when it comes to the short term and for the tankers, conventional ways still persist, where we basically go for the conventional solutions. However, we need to be innovative in terms of finding the right mix and the right balance between having a conventional ship but also a sustainable ship. Today, we don't need to go for a new ship, which is like working on ammonia or maybe methanol or green methanol or green ammonia, simply because this is not available at this stage. Yet, we can still find a way in between where we have ships that can burn lesser fuel and emit lesser emission, of course. And for that case, I think simply in my views, when I look at it, the balance isn't about choosing one over another. This is very important. It's about timing and sequences. So we need to pick the right time, we need to pick the right sequence, and we need to capture also the efficiencies now while positioning a lower carbon sort of ships. So, as they say, the future of maritime industry basically belongs to those who believe in sustainability, believe in innovation, but at the same time believe in the right sequencing and timing.
Okay, just a follow-up question, because as you rightly pointed out, we had a lovely picture of your Sohamax vessel with wind. I just wondered, I'm sure people in the audience are interested in, is that looking like a good return on investment, and will you be looking at tankers for that technology in future?
Good. Well, let me just put it for this particular ship, our return on that one, return on investment is about 9%. So we are, in fact, yeah, it's quite good, and in some cases it's actually more than 9%. We always say it's 9% just to be more conservative. Nevertheless, we are looking into covering the cost very soon. In the first voyage, the ship actually saved about $560,000 of fuel. That is in the very first one. And then, it's not a secret, I would reveal it. The project costs about $5 million. So it is actually more than 9%.
I'm sure people are interested, because it's something I'm sure people are looking at, alternative fuels, but wind we shouldn't forget is a natural resource that is
true. We did carry an experiment on this particular ship where we shut down the engine, and we had like a supporting current of about 3 knots, and the ship was doing in total 6.5 knots at zero engine. There was no engine. The engine was fully shut down, and the ship still did 6.5 knots, of course, with the 3 knots current in it. So that is basically how it works.
Thank you very much. And now over to Shihab Ahmed Al-Rama, as I mentioned, who has joined the panel. Shihab is the Director of Oil Terminals at DP World. And I was wondering, how do you see the role of oil terminals in the green transition, in the movement to reduce emissions across the whole supply chain? Where do you see terminal operators fitting in this context?
As a port authority, we always focus on reflecting the government vision towards sustainability and clean energy. So we are aligned with the Ministry of Energy for the net zero strategy for 2030, 2040, and up to 2050 as well. We also consider the infrastructure of the port and regulating the development of the port, looking at recycled material, for instance, taking under consideration the powered equipments, where we are aligned with DEWA as a government entity to apply renewable energy from the source of solar panels. We are regulating our port with the FTA, and we are the first port in the Middle East restricting the 0.5 low sulfur to all port users and the port operators. Moving forward, we are enhancing innovation and technologies. The efficiency, the more efficiency you have in the terminal, the more you consider having unpredictable hours for the equipments used. So applying technology and applying smart solutions to manage terminals definitely reduces up to 10 to 15% of diesel utilization and consumption towards different terminals and different operations.
Okay. And how important do you see the collaboration between port authorities, terminal operators and shipping companies? I mean, how are you seeing greater willingness to work together on solutions?
We always look at look where the ship operators moving towards what energy they're gonna consume. As a port operator, we are facilitating the operations, and we are enhancing the facilities to add value for the port users. For example, as a bunker supply. Now, until now, we are in continuous talk with the port users which energy they're going to use, whether methane or LNG or biofuel or even whether they're going to continue, until when they're going to continue with the scrubbers, and how we're going to expand our facilities to capture the requirement of these vessels for the new energy or the alternative energy they're going to use. So definitely we are always in touch. We are aligned with the shipping agents and with the ship operators on what they want and what they require in order for us to move within our vision of having a clean environment and clean waters as well.
Thank you very much. Now, Abdul Bari Al-Zubaydi, we heard from you this morning. Just to remind you, he's the Senior Vice President of Ship Management at ADNOC LNS. I just wanted we heard a lot about sustainability this morning, but also about safety and the importance of making safety priorities. I just wondered, how do you see ship management practices evolving in order to address these issues within the tanker shipping sector? What changes do you think will need to take place in order for ship management to keep pace with requirements in these areas?
Okay, basically the answer splits in between the existing fleet, okay, where the retrofit upgrades is required, and those comes associated with the demonstration and familiarization for the crew, if that's your question. Those training, okay, collaboratively depends on the technology itself. Okay, we're setting our crew competency is there. On the other hand, you have the new technologies, okay, coming on the market and the alternative fuels. So we're looking at a new build, okay, separately, once it comes to the fitness of the crew and readiness of them. Since the new vessel are modified to accept DF, and it comes associated with the ESDs, such ALS, etc. Those familiarization, okay, takes place even before the delivery.
I mean, just one point that was made today about the need for crew members who at the moment are not qualified in great numbers to handle alternative fuels to get those skills. What are you doing at ADNOC LNS? Have you got a program at the moment underway to invest in seafarer skills to meet the new demands?
Okay, looking at the statistic provided earlier, on the number of crew, okay, ready to handle certain type of fuels. It tells us how the global pool of a crew are ready to take over. But the question here, okay, which type of fuel the operator or owner will choose going forward? And that will go on the dependency of the technology readiness. So if we decide that the technology readiness are available, then the second step is basically piloting, then followed up by tailoring the pattern of trade of your operation profile, which will decide the available infrastructure to provide this fuel for the owner to choose which type of training he requires for his crew. So it's a supply chain where it has to be tailored, designed for every owner a bit, depends on the basically operation profile, pattern of trends, and his business.
Thank you very much. Ali Abuda, again, the transition to greener shipping is something that was a major theme this morning, surrounded a little bit more uncertainty, at least around the pace of it. But how do the financial strategies surrounding that transition need to evolve? And perhaps how are you approaching it at Gulf Navigation?
So I think there is one common thing here from operation perspective, from financial perspective, and across the industry. I think ESG is becoming a very, very important element, and we see a lot of investors, financiers, banks, etc. They are more focused on how companies are complying with ESG. They are moving or shifting from a shareholder value to a stakeholder value. They needed to have those companies matching up to their plans and strategy in terms of ESG. Banks have already started to kind of become part of the Poseidon Principle and some other measures to get agency accreditation and so on and so forth. And companies, in my view, need to kind of match up with what the banks are doing to be able to have access to cash. Now, in terms of cash, I mean, it's available, it's everywhere. The only thing is that you really need to have the right formula to be able to access that cash. And all ship owners and companies who have adopted ESG reporting and ESG measures, and they adopted transparency in terms of their operations, I think they didn't only have access to cash, but they've also got a better returns. And if you look at the major financial markets today, companies with ESG rating and reporting structure and compliance and transparency will have a higher return of anything between 10 to 70 basis points comparing to companies who are listed but they don't have the same structure. So I think it's becoming a common thing where investors, financiers, everybody is looking at the element of ESG and how companies are adopting into that.
And we heard also about still the uncertainty about the direction of travel for alternative fuels and what are going to be the fuels of the future: methanol, ethanol, ammonia, LNG, whatever. I mean, in terms of providing the infrastructure needed to support that requires quite a lot of investment, doesn't it? I just wondered, how do you see that within this region in particular? Is there a need for a step up in investment to support the fuel transition in terms of fuel supply and the supply chain?
Right, so we all agree that fuel is the most important element when it comes to shipping, and it accounts for a big portion of the ship operation in general. And I think I think it's a consensus that there is no one size fits all so far. There is no one particular fuel which everybody can agree that this is the fuel of the future. And in my view for that, I think there will be various attempts towards, making investment viable. We heard a lot about LNG last year. This year there's a bit of a shift towards methanol, and then biofuel has picked up quite well. And I think if you compare the three, probably the easiest one is to kind of focus on biofuel, because the numbers are quite promising. The investment is not very, very material, and it's going to lead the transition until we find the right solution. And if you look at what happened last year, for instance, there was about 2 million metric tons of biofuel has been sold as alternative fuel, and half of that quantity was only in Singapore itself. And this is promising, because if we look at today, I mean, we've especially in our region here, whether it's Fujairah or what Sohar are doing. I mean, this is a great initiatives, and I think it is going to make transformation in the industry if we keep it, relevant and fast, because we need to have that assurance to ship owners that we are there and we are supporting you from a port perspective. Okay, we've got this solution for you guys to start, calling this area being a bunker hub, a reliable bunker hub. Not only Singapore, not only Amsterdam or the South American and North American countries, but also we are here and we have the investment in place. We're spending a lot of money to kind of make the infrastructure ready to kind of take you with us towards the transition from. And I'm very glad to see that the region is transforming into an alternative fuel region. As I said, Sohar project is a great initiative. We hopefully will see Gulf Navigation has acquired a company called Borouge Energy Limited, or the asset of Borouge Energy Limited in Fujairah, which is the second largest fuel storage facility in Fujairah, with a million cubic meters of storage available. Now, the time is right for Gulf Nav to kind of try to transform that facility into an alternative fuel facility, or partially alternative fuel facility, to kind of ensure that there is a solution to the ship owners who are coming from the Far East to the west side, or vice versa.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Nafisa, you talked a lot about the need for safety and for tanker operators to make that a strategic objective. I mean, how important do you think the after-sales support and servicing of equipment on board is, and do you think that senior management in tanker shipping companies pay enough attention to that area?
For us at Molu Boys, after-sales service is of paramount importance. I firmly believe that when the customer comes first, the customer lasts. At Molu Boys, we have the concept of LTV, lifetime value of a customer. In the electronic segment, which is our main vertical, we have a 79% retention rate of most customers. I remember reading a Harvard business case which actually said that it is 8 times more expensive to acquire a new customer than to retain an existing one. So for me, it's service, service, and service. I personally feel that more business is lost due to poor treatment, poor service, rather than a poor product. And from being a 120+ year company, I think one of the reasons that we have existed for so long is that we have always put service first. Thank you.
Okay. And congratulations on winning the Women in Shipping Award last night. That was very well deserved. I mean, how can the women leaders within shipping and maritime contribute uniquely to driving transformation, particularly in the sustainability and safety and these areas that are so important?
Well, sadly, shipping industry is still predominantly a man's world. This forum itself, or rather this panel itself, proves it. However, I personally feel that the role of women in shipping really adds a lot of value. Women have 3 very unique characteristics or traits. One, a very high adversity quotient. Secondly, huge ability to multitask. And thirdly, tremendous resilience. And I think if we can leverage on all these 3, then the workplace will be a better place because of the 3 strengths that a woman will lend to the forum. So that's my take.
Thank you. Then we'll make it a key KPI for next year to have 2 female panelists at least on this session.
Sorry, I can't follow.
Sorry, I was just saying we'll make it a KPI for the Maritime Standard to have at least 2 panelists, female panelists on the panel next year. Can you not hear me? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm trying to speak as loudly as I can. Sorry about that. Over to Kumar. I mean, you mentioned USTR. Can you hear? Okay. Tell me, can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear.
I mean, a lot of people in the room, this is a new concept. This is a new buzzword, isn't it? But it's going to be a very important one. I mean, perhaps you just expand on what it is and how it's going to apply to tanker shipping and what it's going to mean. You know, what is it? How worried should people be about the impact of it?
Thanks, Clive, for the question. I think it is Section 301 of U.S. Trade Act 1974 that allows U.S. to make policies against any country that they think is taking undue advantage of any trade or policies that they have put in place. Now, taking advantage of that clause, what the USA did was they said that China is taking advantage of our lenient trade policies. So they said we will put port fees on any vessel that is built in China, operated by a Chinese operator, or has any sort of interest from a Chinese entity. Now, that effectively means that we are talking about almost 40% bare minimum of the global fleet. And this, by the way, doesn't only include tankers. It expands across all the shipping sectors. Now, the port fees that they have levied increases progressively. So in the first year, which is 2025, when it came into effect from 14th of October, $50 per net ton fees on any vessel arriving in US. Now, they will levy these fees to a maximum of 5 times in a year. But just to give you the context, a typical VLCC is about 100,000 NT. So we are roughly talking about $5 million per visit and 25 million in a year. Next year, it goes up to 80, then 120, and then 150. So these are astronomical sums to pay as port fees. Now, very recently, China did a reciprocal of that. They said that, okay, why should we be left behind? We are going to do the same. They went one step further, and they implemented fees which are higher than the US fees. US fee begins at $50, Chinese fee begins at $56. It graduates up to $240 per net ton. So effectively, for each visit, we are talking about, almost 10% of the vessel's value that needs to be paid as fees. Now, that is totally impractical. Hypothetically, let's say that even happens, then you can't even begin to assume what the inflation would be like. So, and US law, it provides some exemption that if you want to build a ship in the US, then you can postpone that for 3 years. So they are, guising it as they want to promote their shipbuilding industry. Now, just to give you a real picture of US shipbuilding industry, they recently got an order of building LNG carrier for $350 million. But that ship is being built in Philippines. That ship is not being built, that is technically contracted to a US shipyard, but that ship is entirely built in Philippines. US at this point doesn't have the infrastructure, nor does it have skilled labor force and cost competitiveness to build any kind of ships at scale. So it's a non-starter. But they are posturing that as if they are doing it to propel their own shipbuilding industry, which I don't believe at this point. So this tussle of USTR and port fees between US and China is a precursor to the trade negotiations that is soon going to take place, so that no one is found on shaky ground and they have equal position of strength to negotiate trade.
Okay, thank you. Oh, well, before I let you go to the next speaker, obviously we heard today about the tremendous volatility in freight rates for tankers. I think was it yourself, Ibrahim, said they'd gone from 20 grand to 120 grand in a matter of weeks or months. Is this going to be the normal? You know, are we seeing higher rates as being a norm, or do you think we're going to see a recalibration in the next year?
Nothing is normal. So it's very difficult, to predict rates. And I think I can give you an outlook for next year, what is going to be the likely scenario. And in a nutshell, I see it positive. And even if, the geopolitical issues settle, I think there are two factors driving it. One of the most important factor that is driving is unwinding of capacity by OPEC plus. So, if all the capacity hypothetically that have been bottlenecked, if that were to come into the picture, by 2026, the global oil supply could be 108 million barrels per day. But our view is that is not going to happen, because at some point they'll have to do production cuts. But what it'll do is, if even half of that incremental supply comes into the market, it will put pressure on the oil prices. Oil stocks at this point across almost the entire world is hovering towards the lowest it has ever been. So now it is an incentive for most of the countries like China, India, and other Asian countries to restock oil. And I think that is what will drive the tanker market in 2025 and 2026. We expect the rates to strengthen from here, and in 2026 as well. The main beneficiary would be VLCCs, because besides the OPEC plus, additional capacities are coming in Guyana, Argentina, Brazil. So all of these are long haul trades and ideal for VLCC. So VLCC market especially will be very robust in 25, 26 as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Bard, I think in the presentations today, I've heard more mention of the word insurance than I have in previous years. Obviously, for obvious reasons, there are more risks, there are more horrors in the market that need to be protected against. But I just wondered, collaboration between insurers and ship owners. How do you see that? Is there close enough collaboration between the insurance community and ship owners? And how can that collaboration be used to improve resilience at a time of great uncertainty?
I think to be in one part of the insurance world is the mutual club system, the P&I clubs, and they collaborate tremendously with the ship owners. The ship owners own the clubs, and I think they are very good at exposing trends that they see in the industry and give knowledge back to the ship owners. There might be one ship owner who's dealing with similar ships which hasn't experienced problems with that ship yet. Tanker coating issues was an issue a few years ago, and the industry, shipping and the insurance industry, also on the hull side, gave knowledge transfer back. That part of the collaboration is obviously there, but I think it's very important to appreciate one thing, and that is the insurance industry, the underwriters, they are in need of you guys having problems, because that's when they respond. The most important thing strategically is to find the right friendship and leadership you have with your underwriters, be that your P&I club or be that your hull and machinery underwriter. The broker needs to be guiding the clients in that respect. And our role is not just to place the insurances. That is probably the shortest, smallest part of our role as a broker. Our role as a broker is to be a strategic partner with the ship owners, to set aside the 1-year renewal and look at what are we going to do in 5 years, how are we going to handle the changes that your industry is up to, that you're exposed to. That might be regulations, it might be innovations, new fuel, and we need to find ways of handling that transition with a predictability. So predictability is also a way of insuring yourself, having a strategic partner.
Okay. And I mean, do you think the insurance sector is adapting fast enough to the risks that we're seeing out there? I mean, or does there need to be a part?
It's a very challenging situation for the underwriters at the moment. You look at the introduction of ammonia in shipping, and you know, the insurance companies have always been able to transform. Initially, when the P&I clubs were started, they were doing sailing ships. And when the steamships came in, everyone was so concerned about it. Everyone was horrified that they were going to put engines on board a ship. Well, the world managed to do that, and the world managed to conquer it. But just when the transition is happening, that is a unknown risk factor that you don't know as an underwriter, and we just need to, as brokers, make sure that they don't overreact because it's an unknown. It's important to have predictability even if you are introducing something that is new and not yet 100% proven.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Captain Ankur, you gave a very detailed presentation about how the Classification Society is supporting the industry through energy transition and you know, some of the technical issues that you're working on. And we talked about the IMO and the importance of this regulatory milestones, which seems to be on shifting sands a little bit. The question is, you know, how can class societies help ship owners prepare for those milestones, and how are you looking at what seems to be a changed scenario now?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I would start here. You know, class societies are fuel agnostic. We cannot say that methanol is better than ammonia, or let's say wind propulsion is better than electric hybrid. We only guide, we only consult. So our job as a class society is to verify the findings, and something that I showed on the screen, ship energy efficiency analysis. That is something that as a class society we use to verify and say, okay, this is the way forward. This is where you should be investing. And that also depends on the trading pattern, because no two ships are the same. And here we are talking about tankers. They go on spot trade. And every time there's a separate, different trading pattern. So when wind propulsion work on a MR tanker, which is going all around the world? No, it won't. Probably it won't. So as a class society, our job is to guide the owners, verify before you invest. That is the most important thing.
You briefly mentioned AI, which obviously is a topic that we're all dealing with in our daily lives. How important is AI in your world going to be, you know, in terms of the relationship between yourself and the ship owners and the ship design process? You know, is AI going to be a game changer quickly or eventually?
I won't say it's a game changer, but it's an enabler. That's the word for this. I have a lot of bad experiences when I was sailing, because I was mainly on chemical tankers where people lost their lives in the enclosed space. And what I showed, the drone technology, as of now, it is only used by the surveyors. It is basically for us. And it is not being used by the vessels, but that is where we are heading to. We would want the chief officers, the ship staff, to reduce their entry into the tanks and use technology to make the ships more safer. So I think that is where we are heading to.
Okay, thanks very much. And Deepak, at the end there, sorry to leave you to the last. I mean, looking with your financial lens on, what steps can companies take to better anticipate and respond to this era of volatility we seem to be locked into at the moment? What's the key to managing that process?
If you're talking about the financing element or the funders for your banks, they're your friends, right? Banks are your friends. So at the moment, what we've seen, a lot of owners have been prepaying debt. The banks are not happy, because ultimately what a shipping bank wants to do is lend money to shipping companies. So the strategy that we've been telling owners is prepay, but prepay a little bit, right? Not all of it. Extend the loan, renegotiate the margin. That means so when things are bad, you have that relationship with that funder, and they will help you when you need it. So I think the uncertainty part, we're in shipping, this is what happens, but the partnership with a funder who gives you 70, 80% of your capital cost funded is really important. So make use of that partnership and look at alternative types of funding, because the strategy of a ship owner changes over time. So you don't stay with the same funder for the same strategy. Okay, different banks, different leasing companies, different alternative funders have different ways of structuring their deal to meet your strategy. Okay, there is no one size fits all.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm conscious of time, so I want to ask the floor if there's any questions. I don't know if we've got anybody with a roving microphone, but if they can. But if you've got a question, just put your hand up and somebody will come to you. There's a gentleman there on the left. I don't know if somebody can get a microphone to him. On my left.
Sorry.
Just if you state your name and then the question.
My name is Nikhil Idnani, and I'm representing the Institute of Marine Engineering Science and Technology. Thank you all panelists for a fantastic presentation. Ankur, you mentioned about CCAT during your presentation, and Abdul Bari, you touched upon ESDs. Now, we are very well aware that there are multiple ship types, there are multiple ship operations, and ESDs are more or less ship specific. And this question goes out to anybody on the panel. Is there a one energy efficiency measure which is sure shot that you have identified, which is applicable to all ship types and all ship operations?
I don't know who wants to. Ankur, do you want to take that one first?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Great question, Nikhil. Yes, I would say there are ESDs which can be identified applicable to all the vessels. Something when it comes to hydrodynamics, something coming to machinery architecture, paints, and you know that better than me, being a paint expert. So definitely that goes to all ship sites. Something that I couldn't speak about at that time due to time is also the block coefficients. You know, it's so important to find the right block coefficient for your vessel before even it goes into building. Where do you want that sweet spot between the slender and the fuller hull? And where is that sweet spot where you can carry the maximum cargo, but at the same time have the most efficient vessel? And this is exactly what CCAT can do.
I think, Abdul Bari, you wanted to speak as well?
Yeah, basically when we look at the ESDs, okay, dependency of those efficiency, okay, just to deliver the at most optimum output of those ESDs, I would advise pilot tow test and ensure that they fit. The second thing is the operator has to understand the operation profile of his vessel, pattern of trades, average speed, and total days of sailing. So by this, you will be shortlisting the at most suitable ESD, okay, for a specific vessel. There is no generic solution, okay, can be applied as a solution for across vessels. So you have to tailor the ESD based on the operation profile, not vice versa.
Okay, thank you. Do I have any other questions from the floor? Oh, a lady at the front, microphone's coming to you. Oh, I think sorry, you'll come next. I think this lady here, I think, was the first. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to try to bring some diversity into the conversation since you touched on females and diversity as well. My name is Iman Abdallah. I was the VP of Operations at Cargill until most recently, operating 700 ships. My question to the distinguished panelists, in the next era for tanker owners and operators, what will define competitiveness? Is it scale? Is it digital transformation? Or is it carbon intensity? Thank you.
Would you like to answer that question?
Thank you, man. I think that's a smart question from a person who works for Cargill. I would say it's a mix of all, simply because as of today, we do have operators that work in conventional and they have their own niche market. We also have charters that will always focus on decarbonization and will only opt for for less emission ships. And we do have also the market that will accept both. So I would say it depends who you operate with and who is the charter. That is the question. But there's no definite answer that in 2026, by 14th of October next year, that we will have one direction. The industry will continue to go in different directions until, I would say, at least until 2030, where things will become much more clearer. But as of today, nobody can tell you the real answer of that question.
Do you want to answer that question?
No, I couldn't agree more. I think, yes, it's a very short period of time to really decide what will drive the future of the shipping industry. But I think in the long run, whoever move first will own the future, in my view. And by that, I mean whoever move first towards decarbonization, digitalization, and scalability, and so on and so forth, will certainly own the future. But if you're still looking into a short, period, quick wins and enjoying the short period market, I mean, your profit is just not going to mortgage your future growth. And as I mentioned earlier, I mean, if you look at what is available today from the investors, most of the investors look into the long term. And when they look into the long term, they expect the ship owners who they invest in to kind of, be compliant with a lot of measures. And among those measures is basically, decarbonization and is ESG and so on and so forth. And I think as an industry today, we are a bit behind comparing to other industries. And that's why I think we need to really open up and show the investors and the world that we are also moving with the world into the right direction. The reason ship companies today are not actually, I mean, if I look at actually attract the public funds and the investors and so on and so forth, I mean, it's very, very few transactions that we have seen so far. I think probably one of the major movement that we have seen is Asiat Shipping last year went IPO. But if you look at in general, there isn't that movement. I mean, but if you look at the other side in other industries, for instance, technology or AI or et cetera, I mean, how many companies went public and how many companies managed to raise funds and how many investors, went in those companies and invested in them? And that's simply because they enjoy a much better returns because they are out there, they are showing that we are doing this, we're doing, all the compliance, we're enjoying, a very clear path towards the future. But we as an industry, we enjoy a very, very small returns. I think that probably if you look at the general, perspective of the shipping companies today, I think they probably attract anything between 6 to 7% of the anticipated cash flow in terms of the share price. And comparing that to other industries, I mean, there is a huge gap. So AI, technology, et cetera, they enjoy about 170% of share, of 170% times of their cash flow estimation. And that's why there's a huge gap which we need to bridge. And how can we bridge it? By focusing on technology, focusing on ESG, and show the investors and the rest of the world that the shipping industry is not only contributing towards the emissions, but also doing something to resolve it.
Okay, thank you.
Clive, if I may add, Iman, what you said, the competitive edge, because in my last career, I used to fix a lot of ships with Cargill. And Dr. Ibrahim mentioned in his presentation the power of contracts. I think that is where the competitive edge is, Something like a virtual arrival clause, just-in-time models. That is where we could make a difference. It doesn't take too much. It's just a contracts that need to be revised. Thank you.
Yes. So sadly, I don't think I've got time to take any more questions, but the speakers will be around, and if you do have any more, I'm sure they'd be only too happy. But I'm just going to give each speaker the chance to sort of sum up. And given that our lunch is awaiting, just in one sentence, I just wondered if each one could say, what are you most optimistic about for 2026? And what is keeping you awake most about 2026? So what are you most optimistic about and what are you most worried about? Dr. Ibrahim.
I would just go a little bit out. I think I'm optimistic that the industry will experience more collaboration. Because if we don't, then we will risk creating a green island in a brown ocean. So we have no choice but to collaborate.
All right. Do you have a final comment? Something that what are you most optimistic about? What are you most optimistic about, and are there any things that you're concerned about?
I think our industry is in a dynamic change, and the new generation which we are preparing and we are putting our focus and we are giving them the strong base, they will be much more smarter than us.
Okay, good. Abdul Bari, do you have a final closing sentence, or something that you're optimistic about and something that might be a worry?
I believe being optimistic, okay, through this difficult time is a good goal, because I believe being optimistic about how maritime industry adoption, okay, to those uncertainties, geopolitics, changes, etc. That makes me very much optimistic.
Okay, thank you very much.
I think probably say about the three big G's. So I would say geopolitics being resolved, probably growth is going to be, I think, a big thing in 2026, and I think probably gas as a source of energy will be developed and progress quite well.
Okay, thank you. And Nafisa?
Well, I'm optimistic about technology helping save lives and reducing LSA failures. I'm worried about technology replacing humans, and it's a double-edged sword. It's my livelihood. We have engineers, etc. So if tomorrow technology does it all, we're going to be left without any work to do. But we'll take it as it comes.
Okay.
Anything for the betterment of the industry is always acceptable.
Okay, great. Naveen, a final comment from you, perhaps reflecting on positive and the negative.
I think for me, the adaptability of the industry is the most positive thing. We have seen bad times, worse time, and every time the industry has bounced back. And I don't think it's going to be any different in the future. So that is positive thing. And negative thing is, and that's purely my perception, that people think that AI is going to solve problems. AI, as Ankur said, is just the enabler. Humans are going to solve problems.
Let's hope so. Bard?
I think one of the more positive things that we are seeing in the insurance market right now, which will benefit tanker owners in a year where I think income is going to be higher, is an overcapacity in the market, which should lead to, at least on the hull side, some opportunities to safeguard, the spending on the insurance side. I think from an insurance perspective, one of the biggest challenges that the industry is faced with, which is actually a shipping problem as well, is the growing number of dark vessels operating with very high age. And at one stage, these operators are going to scrap these boats. It probably takes less than a year to earn the value of the ship, but nobody can receive them because you can't pay a sanctioned body. So that is an industry problem that needs to be solved, because we don't want to find 200 ships lying outside of Alang who's just been abandoned, because it's a massive environmental challenge and it's a problem for the insurance industry.
I think it's a good point you make there, and I'm sure greater minds than mine will have to work that one out. Sort of a surrender scheme perhaps or something. Anyway, Captain Ankur.
Clive, all the senior leaders here, I think, have covered everything. So I'll add some fun to it. I'm most optimistic about taking my parents, who are 80-year-old now, to Japan for a vacation. What I'm worried about, really about nothing.
Okay.
That won't help.
Thank you. And last but not least, Deepak.
Okay, optimistic about world peace, maybe, right? That's one. Let's go there. But then at the same time, I'm optimistic about the amount of capital is needed in the industry because of this aging fleet. So there's a lot of opportunities there in the short term, and then as well as the medium term. What am I worried about? World peace, but also my golf game going downhill as we get older. But that's my only other issue.
Okay. Well, look, thank you very much. I think thank you to our panel. I do really appreciate we've been very fortunate to have such a talented and diligent group of speakers who really worked hard to put together some presentations and answer the questions that I put to them and that you put to them in a thoughtful way. So please give them a final round of applause. I think when I started, I said I thought the word uncertainty would be used a lot, and I think that was true. But also, I think there is an optimism and a hope that the routes to navigate through those uncertainties are there, and that next year's clearly going to be a challenging one, but that there are reasons to be cheerful that the shipping industry will find a way through these unexpected barriers and will emerge stronger and more efficient by the time we meet again this time next year.